Hey guys, welcome back to Clockwork Noodles. We've got another episode of Blue Period. Before we get going, make sure you guys are subscribed, just so you are on top of whatever videos are going up, because it's going to be a few weeks as we slowly get into a new season of new things going out, schedules not quite being there. I should have a schedule updated for you guys at some point when I get around to doing it. There's also a Discord channel too that should give you a notification to your phone whenever anything goes out. So that's probably your better way of doing it if you are floating around. And it also helps you guys realise when an anime drops. If you're like me as well, it's very difficult sometimes to stay on top of when things drop. I did forget that it was supposed to come out today. And to be fair, half of me wasn't expecting it's episode 2 when episode 1 hasn't fully dropped for everyone else off Netflix. But let's get going. Episode 2 has probably got a very powerful scene that I really want to talk about a little bit later on. I haven't got too much to discuss. I've only got about a page and a half of notes, which is quite low for me. The OP finally has also dropped as well. And the one thing I really like about the OP, especially with it being really artistic, is the way they actually reveal the logo right at the end, the title. It's done via the stencil method, where you put in the stencil, you will go over with the colour, and then you peel it back. It's artistic flair to its finest, and I really like the way that it looks, because I'm also a huge fan of things like gradients, and blue is one of my favourite colours. And I also have something fun to show you guys, because I guess we're all, maybe at heart, we all love art to a degree. This is something that I did recently with a photographer, and well, you can see what it's supposed to be. The girl of the pearl earring was the inspiration. We wanted to do something a little bit different with our own flair, so not quite a replication with the earring in, but I'm very happy with it. Something artistic for me to share with you guys. I really still want to give absolute mega kudos to the art teacher. Last week I even said was just a fantastic teacher. She was inspiring, she was supportive. Regardless of how the students were acting, she was still there, persevering with all of them. She acts as a bit of a saving grace when Yaguchi is getting grilled by his tutor about his form for the future, because it must be a bit of a surprise for the teacher who has seen these amazing grades and then suddenly art is everywhere. So it's going to be an interesting journey as we see how far Yaguchi can go, because art is a subject which I still believe it all comes down to the amount of time you put in. And I love art. It's amazing. And if I go even a few weeks without drawing anything, my skill level gets rusty. With Yaguchi joining quite late, it's going to be interesting to see how quick he can make leaps and bounds. And we do get that this week. There is some really nice artwork shown this week as well. We are now ready to do art. We are part of the art club, and the homework that is set over the break is really reminiscent of the work I used to get in my own art classes. This anime is really acting as a bit of a memory jogger, a nice trip down memory lane back when I used to do art. And I just remember having the very high tables, and then there's the sinks, and everyone's got the watercolors, and everyone would steal the black because they would like to draw around it, and obviously you're not really supposed to use black in a painting. There was also the fact that a few of us had conspiracy theories that the art tutor was actually removing the black from the paint palettes because they didn't want us to use black in pictures because it flattens an image. Lots of fun things. This anime really does send me down a memory lane. We are now following Yaguchi's mission to learn how to draw, learn art essentially, learning what his style of art is going to be, what it means to be art for him. I do like the fact that they include manga in the project, so manga is allowed. In my class, manga was actually banned. You were not allowed to draw in that style because my tutor kind of saw it as going away from everything that you learn properly in her form of art. Then obviously art is subjective, so nowadays manga probably is allowed, but my tutor was very, very strict. All this episode, we are focusing on still life. I'm hoping that's what the Japanese is, because I think they call it dizin. Basis, as the art tutor says, of art. It's getting the perspective, getting proportions down. To me, this is still life. This is the idea of getting a collection of items, drawing it, focusing on where the light is coming from. And I did many a class having to draw a collection of objects for still life. It's experience. It really is all about experience of art. Is getting used to shapes, getting used to adding those shadows, finding your way of actually doing shadows too. I became obsessed at one point with crosshatch shadows. I really liked them. And then I went for a period of using charcoal, and it really does bring back memories. I think that's why I really probably resonate with this anime. art really is just a constant learning curve. It's never done. You're never going to be a top master. Many of those top artists, a lot of them were always in search of something better, trying to catch something new. With art, I think nothing is truer than the idea of you are your own worst critic when it comes to art in particular, because artists really do beat themselves up over their artwork. Even on Instagram now that art is now online as well, and you will see a lot of them posting fun memes of just how you're drawing something and it doesn't look like what you want, and then you're beating yourself up. It's all of this stuff that comes to mind here as well. Yaguchi gets hit by the reality of how competitive the spaces are at art schools, where we focus on Mori. And Mori is a fun character because she's actually super, super important to the journey that Yaguchi has now found himself upon. And her artwork is beautiful. It's fantastic. And the picture with the angels is gorgeous. But even Mori says that she was fifth from the bottom in her cram school. And that really is a bit of a wake-up call to show you that it's competitive. There's a lot of really good artists out there. Mainly, today's focus is Yaguchi getting to that very important scene right at the end, and Mori is a catalyst for it because he starts to realise that really has just begun his journey, and all the way throughout this episode we see him constantly comparing himself to everybody around him, looking at other people instead of really just focusing in on his own picture. He's constantly looking at how other people are as well. It is a journey of perspective in many different forms. The idea of perspective probably is the core of this anime or core of art in general. But some happy news for this episode. Mori ends up passing and we do get our graduation, which is a very happy moment. And this seems to spur Yaguchi to finally decide what he wants to focus in on, and that is the art of oil painting. With one thing down of him finally deciding that he wants to focus in on oil painting, he still has his biggest struggle, and this biggest struggle is what ends up taking us out and leading into one of perhaps the best scenes, I think. It's the struggle of convincing his own parents. But back to Mori, because with Mori being this massive catalyst in all of this, it's also important to realise that her artwork, the artwork with the angels, is also the first piece of proper art we see in the anime in first episode 1, and it's also the first bit of art that strikes a chord with him. Yaguchi is moved and actually inspired by the artwork that she has produced, and that is the power of art. The art she then hands him, this is a quick drawing session, it's beautiful. It is a massive inspiration, and this is just that amazing catalyst. And also, I think the point here is showing you that art itself speaks for itself, which ends up leading to what happens in the next sequence. The highest point of this anime, I think, really is the artwork that it shows, because these artworks have definitely been drawn by somebody. They are beautiful. They're absolutely beautiful. There's different styles of art going on. It makes me wonder if there's different artists involved in creating all the portfolios for all the artists in the actual anime itself. I also like the fact that Yaguchi is motivated to draw something special for her. So he says he doesn't want to give it to her right there, and he wants to give it to her on the graduation day because he doesn't want to rush it. And I think as well, he kind of wants it to be something special that he needs to go away and think about instead of just drawing it on the spot. The most important takeaway from this episode, I think, art allows artists to convey feelings without the use of words. It allows people to reach others and show others how they feel or how they see something. It ends up leading to perhaps one of the best scenes of this entire episode. It is the confrontation with his parents, the one that he's been putting off for a little while now. This is a fantastic sequence. I love this sequence. The writing on this sequence is amazing, and it really feels real. This sequence is powerful, with him handing the picture and then showing art is all about the attention to details. The fact that he's now got that artistic eye, and now that he's opening up as a human, looking at life in a different manner, because art makes you look at the world in a different manner. He's now able to see the lengths that his own mum goes to just bring him up, to do her day to day, to be a good parent to him. They are able to have this really beautiful scene where he opens up, and maybe I'd even like to hesitate that it might be the first time he's ever opened up to her, and the fact that he's gone to her for advice and she ends up in tears, and it's a very tearful sequence. He does cry a lot as well. wasn't expecting it of him, but he's quite emotional, in touch with his emotions. And again, we get that beautiful scene where he ends up crying, she ends up crying. This scene is fantastic, and it's probably my favourite scene out of the 2 episodes we have. I know I don't have a lot to go on, but this sequence is powerful. The gift at the end to Mori is really, really personal. Yaguchi is conveying his feelings about seeing her drawing. Obviously, I think it's her from behind and in front of the canvas, surrounded by the angels. And it's an amazing personal little detail because it's the first time that they ever met. And it really feels personal. I love these 2 characters. I love the way that these 2 have bounced off one another, because Mori was a character who was able to just talk to him right at the start about her artwork. From then, she's been this massive go-to for him when it comes to advice, or just being inspired by looking at the artwork. With the graduation of Mori, we now have the 1 year in place. I think he's a 2nd year. So we now have a year for him to improve, find an art style, and somehow get to a point where he's able to get into an art college. I'm really excited to see how he does it. This is certainly an anime about journeys, about perspective, about being able to communicate to people without the use of words. And I'm loving it. I'm really loving it. All the artwork is gorgeous. That whole scene, the whole scene with him and his mum, that was a bit of a game changer for me, because initially the first episode I was like, okay, this is cool, this is okay. The artwork is nice. But that scene, that hit differently, and that makes me excited to see where the anime is gonna go, because this was a hyped anime and I want to know why. Whenever someone tells me a manga is trailing at 9s or 8s, I want to know why, because that often means that there's something very special going on in the artwork, in the pages, before it even gets to the screen and they decide to give it an adaptation. I want to know why Blue Period is special. So very excited to see where it takes us, what journey we go along as we follow Yaguchi in his journey of finding himself and awakening himself. Very excited. I really can't wait to get going. Hope you guys are doing well. Thank you again for tuning in. Have a good day, guys. Bye-bye.